You know, for the last 50-plus years, we've heard this one story over and over again, the population bomb. Too many people, not enough planet. But what if the experts got it completely 100% backwards? What if the real threat isn't a population explosion, but a population collapse? Okay, let's dive into this.
So let's start with this massive flip-flop in thinking, a complete reversal from a fear of way too many people to a fear of way too few.
And man, this fear was everywhere. Books, TV, all the experts, they were all warning us that runaway population growth was going to lead to worldwide famine, disease, and war. It was presented as a mathematical certainty, except, well, the year 2000 came and went, and by 2011, we hit 7 billion people. The prediction was totally wrong, but that fear kind of stuck around. But fast forward to today, and the script has completely flipped. A whole new generation of thinkers is sounding a totally different alarm. They're not seeing a future of crowded cities, but of empty ones. So who's right? The old fear or this new one? To really get what's going on, you just need to understand one simple but super critical demographic idea. This is the number that basically decides if a country grows or, well, shrinks. It's called the replacement level. Just think of it like the break-even point for a population. A society needs an average of 2.1 children per woman just to keep its population stable, right? One kid to replace the mom, one to replace the dad. And that little 0.1, that just accounts for people who don't have kids or, sadly, children who don't grow up. Anything less than 2.1, and that population is heading downwards. Okay, and this is where it gets kind of mind-blowing. As of today, 3/4, 75% of the entire world's population already lives in countries that are below that critical tipping point. This isn't some problem for the distant future. Nope, it's happening right now across pretty much the entire developed world, and it's spreading fast. This whole thing creates what experts are now calling a birth gap. See, when you have fewer babies being born, guess what? 20 years later, you have fewer young workers. But at the same time, you've got this huge generation of older folks who are all retiring. So the big question is, who's going to pay for everything? Who's going to support them? So the big question is, why? Why is this happening pretty much everywhere all at once? The search for an answer is like this fascinating global mystery, because none of the usual suspects really fit the crime. So in the West, for example, everyone pointed their finger at the contraceptive pill for falling birth rates back in the 70s. But here's the thing, Japan's birth rate fell at the exact same time, and the pill wasn't even legal there for decades. Or how about this? The insane cost of education? That's a huge deal in Japan. But in Germany, where university is free, the birth rate is just as low. See? These local explanations, they just don't hold up when you look at the big picture. It turns out the real answer wasn't found by asking why people were having smaller families. It was found by realizing that everyone, and I mean everyone, was asking the wrong question all along. The creator of the Source documentary for this explainer had this huge aha moment after years of digging into this. He assumed, just like most of us would, that the problem was, a cultural shift towards one-child families. But the data told a completely different and way more dramatic story. Just look at Japan. The number of children per mother has barely budged in 50 years. It's held steady at about 2.2. So people who actually become parents are having the same size families as their grandparents did. The real change, the shocking change, is the explosion in childlessness. It's skyrocketed from just 5% of the population to over 25% today. So the crisis isn't smaller families, it's a massive increase in no families. And this explosion wasn't random, not at all. It lines up almost perfectly with major societal shocks. The 1973 oil crisis hits Japan and Italy, boom. Childlessness shoots up. The Asian financial crisis hits South Korea in the 90s, same thing. The 2007 global crash hits the US and Europe, and you guessed it, a huge surge in people who end up having no kids. Okay, so why does a crisis cause people to never have kids, instead of just, delaying it a few years? The answer is in this powerful, almost hidden force of nature that works like a mathematical trap. It's called the vitality curve, and it's simpler than it sounds. In any society, if you just plot the age of new parents on a graph, you get this incredibly smooth, perfect bell curve. It shows that parenthood is this synchronized social event. It peaks at a certain age and then falls off just as quickly on the other side. So how does this natural rhythm become a trap? It's a chain reaction. Step 1. A crisis hits, and young people decide to put parenthood on hold. Step 2, that delay stretches the vitality curve out, making it longer and flatter. And step 3 is the key. This means fewer people's personal timelines, finding the right partner, feeling financially stable, end up synchronizing during their peak fertility window. The final result isn't really a choice, it's a circumstance. Mass, unplanned childlessness becomes the new normal. And this chain reaction is now reshaping our entire world, creating a future that looks very, very different from the one we were promised, or even the one we were warned about. I mean, the consequences are just profound. Think about our pension systems. They were all built like a pyramid with a huge base of young workers supporting a small top of retirees. What happens when you flip that pyramid upside down? The math just doesn't work anymore. And the national debt, with fewer taxpayers, how do countries pay for anything? Businesses will start struggling to find workers, and the whole social fabric just changes. We are literally heading for a world of empty playgrounds and full nursing homes, facing a real humanitarian crisis of elder loneliness on a scale we've just never seen. There's a powerful name for these aging societies now: yesterlands. It's a bit haunting, right? It means communities with a rich past but a shrinking future. You can already see them in parts of rural Japan or Italy, places where schools and shops are closing down because there are no young people left. They're communities that are just slowly, quietly fading away. And this leaves us with the single biggest question of all. Our entire modern world, our economies, our societies, everything, it's built on one fundamental idea: growth. More people, more workers, more customers. So, what happens when that engine is thrown into reverse? How does a world designed for more function with less, year after year after year? That is the challenge of the birth gap, and it's a challenge we're only just beginning to understand.